Hey everybody, Vivian here with a video tutorial for you that I'm shooting and narrating from Las Vegas. I'm so happy to be here just as the weather cools down and I'm starting to think a lot about autumn, so I wanted to provide you with some autumn inspiration. I am using one of my favorites, Bigz dyes. This is a Tim Holtz Alterations Bigz dye. It's called Weathered Clock 657190. And I'm sending it through my Big Shot that I have here in the Vegas studio with a piece of corrugate from a box. Look at how beautiful the die cutting is here. You could easily use this weathered clock shape as is without pushing out those die cut pieces, because I think you can clearly see those shapes. But for my project, I'm going to just push those pieces out. So this is one of the lovely, special, unique, fantastic aspects of Sizzix as a company. They produce a number of different dyes using the Bigz type die, and these dyes are just fantastic because they cut through so much. The corrugate is very thick. It cuts through the corrugate, it cuts through chipboard, it cuts through felt, it cuts through a number of different metal, and I just love that extra bit of dimension that it gives. So I cut the weathered clock out of my corrugate, and I'm also going to cut it out of a piece of Kraft core from the Tim Holtz Coordinations Nostalgic Collection. And so this has the Kraft core has, as it says in the title, a Kraft core and different colors on the surface. I'm going to stick with a very dark palette today. This is black paper cardstock from Coordinations. It's from their Black Magic collection. So this has a number of different colors in the core and a black top surface. So you can imagine the possibilities with this stuff for autumn and for Halloween, and for the whole chalkboard rage that's going on in the paper crafting community right now. So I'm going to cut some leaves out of this Coordinations Black Magic Colorcore collection, and then I'm going to do some fun sanding to reveal those beautiful colors all along the edges. So this, and I'm sending several pieces through at the same time because once again it's a Bigz die and it cuts through quite a bit. So I put several sheets of Coordinations cardstock in there. And so you can see these beautiful edges of these leaf shapes. This is the Tim Holtz Alterations Tattered Leaves die, and that's number 656927. So you can see here I'm sanding just really simply. If I run a sanding block over the die cut, it reveals the color core all along the edges and really accentuates those beautiful die cut edges. With the more delicate shapes, I press hard along the center and I sort of work with the direction of the cut. If I were to, for example, push that sanding block outward and in, I'd crush my leaf and maybe rip the cardstock, which I don't want to do. So I work from the center outward in the direction of the veins of the leaves. I'm really having a great time working with this Black Magic collection from Coordinations. I hope you'll agree with me. I think I'll show you a couple of projects that I did with this stuff. It really helps you create a very, very unique effect with your paper crafted projects and works really, really well in coordination with die cutting. So I want to give you a close-up. This is the Tim Holtz Tattered Leaves Bigz die. Aren't these cuts beautiful? I think what I'm going to do with these is cluster a few of them onto Thanksgiving cards with some twine and a button. Very simple, fast Thanksgiving cards. But for today's project, I'm actually going to use the leftovers. The leftover of this die cut makes an excellent mask. And as you can see here, I've started inking through those holes using a cosmetic sponge. And here I'm just using some frost white pigment ink from Clearsnap. And I'm intentionally doing it really softly, a little bit heavier along those beautiful die cut edges to distinguish the lines of the leaf shape. But I actually want a lot of variety in there and subtle shading, so I'm wiping away quite a bit of the ink. So you can see my corrugate clock in the top right-hand corner of the screen. I should have told you this earlier. I Mod Podged the corrugate to the clock. And if you've got pattern papers and you want to make sure you've got the right side, make sure when you die cut the clock shape that you put the side that you want face down onto your die. It's especially important with this die because you want the clock numbers to go in the right direction. I learned that the hard way because I forget these types of things. So hopefully I saved you a little bit of trouble there. So you want the pattern on your pattern paper that you like, the side that you like, face down onto that die. So here you can see I like to have them overlap, and just the trick to that is to make sure when you add the ink to just leave it much lighter where it intersects with the leaf shape that you did previously. Just like that. I decided to add just a little bit more color into my falling leaves. So I'm using some Clearsnap, also Color Box, mixed Media Inks. They come in a nice range of colors. I'm using a lot of their neutrals, as you can see on the left. These are very wet, juicy pigment inks, and they go on really luxuriously. I use them a lot for my hot glue gun effects, but they're really fun to blend in this way. And I had a thought afterwards. I didn't actually do it with this project, but because it's so wet, you could actually sprinkle some clear embossing powder on top and tap off the excess and heat it with a heat tool, so you'd have those edges glisten, the edges of your leaves. So this is another great die to have for all those autumn-themed projects. It's the Tim Holtz Alterations Fall Garland die, and it's number 657454. I actually just sent it through my Big Shot using some scraps because I'm using up all of my Black Magic collection from Coordinations here. And the great thing about this die is you get so many shapes in one pass. You have a number of various leaf shapes and some nut shapes, some branch shapes, some kind of seed pod shape that I really like a chaff of wheat. And what I did with all of these is I sanded them just like it did those larger leaf shapes, and I adhered them onto my layout horizontally across the page to sort of nest my weathered clock die cut. I don't know if you can see, but I already adhered some of the Black Magic with the Kraft core. And what I had done with those is I wrinkled up those leaf shapes very carefully, and I sanded off the ridges so that you really get the sense of, you know, those piles of leaves that, you know, are all crinkly. So here you can see I'm wrinkling it just a little bit. This one has a lavender core, and sanding off some of the pigment on top, that black pigment. And then I adhere to all of these little pieces with some hot glue. So I arranged my die cuts in little clusters of color. I've got clusters of tan and red and lavender. I decided to add just a little bit of texture and color. I've got some beautiful metal embellishments. There's a ladybug and like a bee. I believe they're from Momenta, and a number of different buttons from my stash to add just a little bit of variety of texture. The layout was asking for it. And this is a new palette for me. to be working very dark like this with the black magic. I'm having a lot of fun experimenting. I think the gloss of these darker colored buttons and the gold buttons looks really nice. So I'm just adhering them with some hot glue, sort of nestling them in the little nooks and crannies created by my small leaf shapes, and just deciding on the placement of these beautiful metal embellishments. I decided to make a card as well using this same type of effect. I am using the Sizzix Labels Bigz die and embossing folder set, and that's number 658465. I wanted exact placement of my die cut once I sent it through the machine with the embossing folder. So I just laid it down exactly where I wanted it, and then very carefully placed a little post-it note on top, little piece of a post-it note to keep it exactly where I wanted it. So you can see with this black magic, when you emboss it and you sand away that top layer, it really reveals those patterns in, I think, a very dramatic fashion. I really love it. So I actually didn't use this label for my card project. I will save it and use it for another one. I'm using a little dust buddy to wipe away those the little bit of powder that's left afterwards. But look at how beautiful that is. So this shape is really nice because it very nicely fits a simple sentiment in the center. So it's great for cards. So here you can see the card. The top area has those soft impressions that were inked through the leftovers from the leaf Bigz die, the Tattered Leaves die, and the labels die was used for the sentiment. And I actually used one folder from a pair. It's a Sizzix Tim Holtz Alterations Texture Fades embossing set in Fancy and Floral Frames set. So I just took a short strip and I did a partial emboss using the folder and inked the ridges with some Pigment Inks from Clearsnap. So here I've got my favorite alphabet strip die from Sizzix. It's called Typeset, and I've already raved about this one in previous videos. So I'm just sending it through, but I just wanted to share with you, if you didn't already know, I got a tip from a follower of mine, Jacqueline, and she uses the Xyron X tool. It's a little manual sticker machine. It's so affordable and perfect for adhering these small letters. So you just stick the small letters or whatever small shapes you have through the top, and then pull it out the bottom and press a little bit all along the edges of those shapes so that you make sure the glue gets on there, and then rip it off. And it just saves you so much time. See how I'm pressing with my fingernail? Saves you so much time and saves you from getting glue all over your fingers. So I'm so excited about this new discovery. Thank you, Jacqueline. So this is a layout of my mom and me. We were recently able to spend 2 precious weeks together. One of those weeks, the first one was in San Jose, and the second one was in Las Vegas, which is where I'm shooting this from. And we got to go to dinner with hubby and have a really, really special meal together, and that's where this picture was taken. It's hard to see because it's black in this lighting, but I'm going to share with you some shots in just a second. Here's a detail of my button-studded garland, and here's a detail of the soft impressions of the leaves from the Tattered Leaves die. Here's my focal image with the wheat chaff, and here's a close-up of that dimension you get from the corrugate, and the other side of my button-studded garland. I'm going to pan over the whole layout and encourage you to ink through your leftovers. We've got some great Halloween dies as well, beautiful spider webs and cats and all that fun stuff. And I'm thinking you could create some really eerie effects using the supplies that I've shared with you today. I want to share with you also some close-ups of the card that I made. Here you can see some of the fun dry embossing with the beautiful Black Magic Colorcore cardstock. It's really subtle floral effects with that other fancy and floral frame set. Some more inking through the leftovers and the full card project. Make sure to check us out at the Sizzix blog and the Sizzix site. On the site you can see all the different dies and embossing folders that we have. And if you would like to see more inspiration from me, please visit me at my site. That's www.contadinak.com. Thanks so much. Bye.